Today is Tuesday， 今日星期二啦。And after class, we went to the one of the eco parks here。咁放咗學之後，我哋晏晝嘅活動就係去其中一個呢度嘅生態公園啦。咁 So there are a lot here actually in Medellin。咁喺Medellin 呢個地方，我而家呢個城市咧都有好多呢啲咁樣嘅公園。咁佢哋就做緊好多呢啲係屬於大自然嘅保育嘅計劃啦。咁 So basically we are in the mountains, like Medellin is more like a valley。咁其實 Medellin 呢個地方咧係一個山谷咁樣嘅地方啦。咁但係即係周圍都有好多樹林啊咁樣樣。And then a lot of like kind of forests around us, and then also plantations and everything。咁今日去呢個地方就係即係其中一個小小嘅保育區咁啦。So we went to like one of these natural reservations today, and it was really absolutely beautiful。咁係超靚啦。One of the things I love about Medellin， 咁我其中一樣中意 Medellin 嘅嘢咧 is because of like this mixture of like rural and urban, and also this sort of like building kind of like a habitat within nature and also preserving it, and kind of like the wilderness in a way, like it's not like carefully planned, it's really just nature。 咁我中意 Medellin 呢個地方其中一個原因就係佢係將呢一個嘅即係鄉郊同埋城市嘅結合啦咁樣樣，然後即係你係即係住喺一個即係樹林嘅環境，即係大自然嘅環境裏面點樣去起樓，點樣去即係一齊共存啦咁，同埋我好中意即係佢哋啲樹啊，佢哋啲嘢全部都係天生係即係野生，唔係好有計劃。Because like in a lot of urban planning, like even like so-called green sort of green projects, is like you plant trees in a way that you know like you group things together。 因為你即係通常即係城市裏面佢哋所謂嘅綠化都好啦，佢哋會係將同品種嘅樹啊植物擺埋一堆咁樣種啦咁。But it's like obviously nature here in a way is just like the different species are just growing together and coexisting together and sharing the space, and it's so beautiful。 咁但係即係呢一度就係你好明顯見到係唔同種類嘅樹啊、花啊、植物係走埋一堆，即係喺同一個區佢就有幾款唔同嘅樹、唔同嘅植物，係即係真係明顯就係大家一齊共享呢個環境資源生態咁，即係製造一個生態嘅環境。So it's like absolutely beautiful and amazing。 咁所以對我嚟講係真係超正、超靚，同埋係真係體會到即係點樣係同嗰個大自然去相處啦咁。When I was in the coffee farm last week， 咁我上個週末去呢個咖啡莊園嘅時候咧 ，one of the beautiful stories that was being told about the plantation。 咁喺個過程裡面咧，其中一個最正嘅古仔咧，就係關於即係呢個咖啡莊其實佢以前咧都會好似其他咖啡莊，因為咖啡有兩個天敵嘅。So the two major kind of natural enemies to the coffee plants would be one of these parasites called the brokers。 咁就係其中一個就係一個寄生蟲啦咁樣。And then another is like the sun. It's like if there's too much sun, there would be a fungi that would be growing on the leaves, and then it would cause them to fall off the tree and eventually killing the plant。 咁另外就係如果太多陽光嘅話咧，個葉咧會生一個嘅某一種嘅毛菌啊，咁而嗰種菌就會令到嗰個葉會跌落嚟啦，咁然後即係最終就會即係令到棵樹冇咗營養就會死啦咁樣樣。So like in generally like most of the industry, most of the coffee industries in the world would solve these problems with chemicals。 咁大部分即係全世界即係種咖啡做緊咖啡嘅地方咧，好多即係佢哋即係 都會採用嘅方法就係用呢一個嘅殺蟲劑啦，用呢一個乜劑，即係化學嘅作用、化學品去即係處理呢個解決呢啲問題啦咁樣樣。So but this coffee farm that I visited， 咁但係我去即係參觀嘅呢一個嘅咖啡莊園咧，佢個老闆就係早大概即係7、8年前開始，9年前開始咧，就諗方法點樣用大自然嘅方法，點樣即係同翻呢一個嘅生態環境去配合啦咁。So like the owner of this coffee farm that I visited like came up with ideas, you know, like how do we like not use chemicals but really try to solve these issues with nature itself. So they realized that the natural enemies of the parasites are wasps. 咁佢哋就發現咧，大黃蜂就係呢一啲嘅寄生蟲嘅天敵。And so like they stop using insecticides, they stop using pesticide。咁佢哋就停止用呢一個嘅殺蟲劑啦。And then they allow the wasps to come back。咁佢哋就即係係啦，由得啲大黃蜂嚟啦咁。And then like for a long time for the change to happen 到，like 咁但係需要好長嘅時間去改變啦。In the beginning, they were losing much more crops than before. While they were using the chemicals, of course, right? Because like once you just stop it, like you've been using it for some time and then you stop it and then of course like it will become a disaster. But naturally as the wasps come here and then do their job and now they're actually losing less crops than before they were using while they were using the chemicals. 咁當然即係佢哋啱即係用咗好耐呢啲殺蟲劑，咁一停用嘅時候咁就梗係即係超級蝕啦，即係有好多嘅咖啡豆都即係受到影響啦咁但係就係經過咗幾年之後，而家佢哋嘅即係嗰個嘅損失就會係少過佢哋之前用呢一個化學劑，即係用呢個殺蟲劑嘅時候啦咁樣樣。And also like because growing coffee or like let's say harvesting coffee and then the beans that came out of the coffee berries like need to be washed if you grow them with chemicals。咁但係如果咧你用殺蟲劑去種呢個咖啡嘅話咧，咁你收成嗰個咖啡豆嘅時候咧，即係個咖啡個果實裡面嗰粒豆啦就係，and 你就要洗佢，即係佢哋嘅叫 wash 啦咁樣。咁但係咧for 1 kilogram of coffee you will need 30 liters of clean water to wash the coffee, and afterwards the water cannot be reused. It's like really it's very bad for the environment. 咁如果你係即係真係要洗豆啦咁樣樣，咁佢講緊咧1公斤嘅咖啡豆係要用到30 lit 嘅水，清潔嘅水、乾淨嘅水咧去洗佢。咁你就可以即係諗到其實佢係對個環境有幾壞啦。同埋因為佢洗完佢之後，因為佢哋裡面係有化學劑㗎嘛，佢洗走嗰啲，佢要洗走啲殺蟲劑啊咁樣樣。咁你嗰啲水完全係污染咗，係用唔翻嘅，係影響環境，係即係其實係毒嚟啦變咗。So like it's just a lot of these things about like growing coffee and everything, and also like the beauty of nature, like the master design of this ecosystem and everything just like comes together. Like you need to lose something before you can gain something, but also like there is this certain kind of like food chain that we cannot intervene with。 咁同埋即係我覺得即係提翻我哋就係即係人類其實好渺小啊！即係呢一個宇宙佢本身個設計其實係真係就係即係大自然裡面佢哋喺呢一個嘅食物鏈入邊其實係好重要，我哋唔應該去干預佢同唔應該去即係令到即係破壞咗呢個生態。So yeah, so this is like really awesome. I mean like but then like the one thing about here is just like today particularly like it's been raining so hard for the entire morning. We were lucky just like the hour and a half that we were at the park that the rain sort of stopped, but it was kind of like wet and it was like really cloudy and heavy kind of like this air pressure coming down, and then like when we finished, then it started raining again. 咁我今日呢邊就係全日都有落狗屎，落咗半日啦。然後我哋好彩去行公園嘅時候，佢就停咗啦，但係都係即係超低氣壓啊，好大嚿黑雲啊咁樣樣。然後我哋行完個半鐘頭之後，佢就開始又再落翻雨啦咁樣樣。So it's kind of like a depressing weather here for me。咁所以對我嚟講，其實呢度咧個天氣係都幾令人即係抑鬱嘅咁樣樣啦。So yeah, I'm really like I really miss the beach town. I really miss Cartagena。咁所以我係超級掛住我對上一個城市 Cartagena， 就係即係喺海邊喺加勒比海側邊咁樣陽光與海灘啦咁。Yeah, but I mean it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's gorgeous. But for me, it's like it's too cold, and then like it's too depressing when it rains a lot, and then it's also like a typical kind of mountain weather, so you really cannot predict it. 咁呢度就係即係係好靚啦，咁但係對我嚟講太凍啦。同埋成日落雨啦，最慘就係因為佢係山區嘅天氣，其實你真係冇得預測，嗰啲天氣預測全部都錯。And so the weather forecast is like always not very accurate, like most of the time it's very off, so you can't really plan. 咁同埋即係因為係咁咧，你就冇得計劃啦，因為嗰啲天氣預報係成日都錯，即係唔準啦咁樣，咁你就好難計劃到你去邊。And then there's a lot of things like a lot of activities like kind of like outdoor, you know, like in the nature, you know, and then like so for me it's just like if it's raining it's not that convenient and it's a little bit dangerous as well, you know, like so yeah, it's kind of like for me it's like a total put off。 咁同埋即係因為佢好多嘅活動都係即係戶外嘅活動啦，即係可能係行山啊，可能係即係喺出邊睇嘢啊，喺街度睇嘢，咁變咗即係佢成日落雨咁就計劃唔到，同埋即係對我嚟講我都覺得有啲危險嘅有啲嘢咁所以我就即係我就覺得唉啲即係好冇癮咯，即係咁。Anyway, so let's begin the reading today. 咁我哋正式開始啦。Read to Resist Day 235。當閱讀也是抗爭第235日。A Concise History of Hong Kong by John Mark Carroll。香港簡史從殖民地至特別行政區，著者高馬可，譯者林立偉。What do we know about the prostitutes themselves? Many of the Chinese prostitutes were either kidnapped and sold into prostitution or sold by their impoverished parents. Contemporary reports mention how young girls in Hong Kong often disguise themselves as boys in public to avoid being kidnapped. Other prostitutes came from the already well-developed sex trades in Canton and Macau. Most of the European prostitutes had been prostitutes before they came to Hong Kong, but some resorted to prostitution after falling on hard times. Toward the end of the 19th century, among the European prostitutes were a large number of Jews who had fled the pogroms in Russia. Shunned by other European women, these prostitutes lived mainly on the margins of the European parts of town or in the predominantly Chinese sections such as Wan Chai. The life of European prostitutes was not always one of humiliation and despair. However, for some rose high enough in society to retire comfortably in Europe or America. 我們對於那些妓女知道些什麼？許多華人妓女都是被誘拐、販賣而淪落風塵，另一些則是被貧窮的父母販賣為娼。當時的報告提到香港少女為免被拐帶，在公眾地方化妝成男孩。其他妓女來自淫業早至發達的廣州和澳門。至於歐籍妓女，大部分人在來港前已以賣淫為業，但有些人則因時運不濟而淪落為娼。到了19世紀末，歐籍妓女中出現大量為躲避大屠殺而逃離俄國的猶太人。其他歐籍婦女對於這些妓女避之唯恐不及，她們主要住在城內歐籍人居住區域的邊緣，或者如灣仔道這些以華人居民為主的地區。但是歐籍妓女的生活不一定卑微潦倒，有些在社會上攀至高位，最後到歐洲或美國退休，生活悠遊。In a group of their own were so-called protected women, Chinese women who served as mistresses to European men, especially before European women came in large numbers later in the 19th century. Many of these women were tan castes, some having been purchased by their European masters from brothels in Canton in Hong Kong. Known to the Chinese as saltwater maids, these women lived in a marginal area of Hong Kong that was nestled between the European business and residential sections of town and was inhabited by a mixed group of European prostitutes, Indian merchants and shopkeepers, Portuguese and Chinese prostitutes who served as European and middle and upper class Chinese clients. Although some of these protected women did well for themselves, the status of their protection could be very fragile. Most European men eventually returned home, leaving their Chinese mistresses in Hong Kong, where they were often despised by the mainstream of the Chinese community. The children of these women formed the beginnings of the Eurasian community. 有一組人是所謂的涉外婚婦，歐籍男人的華人妾侍，尤其是歐籍女人，在19世紀末大量到來之前，許多這些女人是疍家人。有些是他們的歐籍主人從廣州和香港的妓院中買來的，華人稱他們為鹹水妹。這些女人住在香港的歐人商業和住宅區之間的邊緣地帶，這地區是歐籍妓女、印度商人和店主、葡萄牙人以及接待歐籍和中高層華人嫖客的華人妓女的混合團體所居住。雖然這些受保護女人部分發展得很好，但她們的地位非常脆弱。大多數歐籍男人最終回國，把華人妾侍留在香港。他們在這裏被華人社會主流所鄙視。這些女人的子女形成歐亞混血族群的最早期成員。So this is a reading of today, and then it talk about like the protected women, which are actually concubines of like Europeans. 咁啊提到涉外婚婦啦，咁就係即係早期歐籍人佢哋喺香港立嘅妾侍啦，或者就係所謂即係佢哋包嘅二奶啦，即係咁樣樣。And but actually there feel like very interesting stories about some of these protected women, and then one of them actually became like a legend and owned a lot of land in Hong Kong and became like very rich as well, like after the man left and then actually left her his possessions. 咁但係涉外婚婦之中都有一啲傳奇嘅女性嘅，咁佢哋就係即係可能得到，可能個男人走嘅時候留咗啲地俾佢啊，或者即係都會即係喺佢哋即係分手嘅時候會送啲禮物俾佢哋啊，咁樣樣咁就係地啦大，咁所以其中有一個咧都係成為咗即係傳奇嘅大地主咁樣樣，喺香港嘅上環嗰啲地方咧都有幾棟樓揸手啊，咁可以收租啊諸如此類嘅咁樣樣。So not all the stories like had happy ending, but also not all the stories have kind of like a bad ending. So it just I guess like it's always like depending on your fate, your luck, or who you ended up with, right? 咁但係我諗即係其實都係啦，唔會所有古仔都係即係快快活活咁生活落去，亦都唔係所有古仔都係好凄慘，要拉晒小提琴得咁樣樣嘅。咁但係人就係即係際遇各有不同啦，即係咁樣樣。So this is it for today. 咁啊，今日就嚟到呢度啦。I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.